So now that we've got it running right, we got a whole lot more work still to go here. I'm waiting on a couple of parts. We will be installing the header. Um, I haven't quite decided how I'm going to do this yet. If I'm going to put the header on and just throw some glass packs on it to get it to the exhaust shop, or if I'm just going to take the whole thing over there and just have them do it. I'm concerned about fitment issues with the header. I'm waiting. I did get a alternator bracket from it was either from a 250 or a 300. I can't remember. I need to move my alternator out. Remember, I've got a one-wire alternator. It's a little bit deeper. It's going to interfere with the header. I don't have the Paul modified header. If you're familiar with Paul Stiegel, he does sell a modified header that comes over to here for air conditioning. It would also work if you have a larger alternator, or in my case, I'm just going to extend this out. They make a longer bracket for the 300s. I found it on eBay for 20 bucks, I think. So what we'll do is we'll just go to a longer belt. I actually bought 3 different lengths of belts to try. Continental. I like Continental belts. These are good. So I'm going to extend that out, and hopefully it'll fit. So like I said, I haven't decided what I'm going to do with that yet. Also, this I just had this in my stash from when I had vacuum power brakes on the truck, which now has a hydro boost. Vacuum power boost on the truck was just no good. When you got a 4,200 pound vehicle with 4-wheel disc brakes, you need hydro boost, and it's just hydro boost is really very amazing. These cars are so light. This little tiny booster does an excellent job when you got 20 inches of vacuum. Well, this cam, which is not big, not in the, if I was talking about a 302 or a 350 or over 400 cubic inches, the duration, as you go up in cubic inches, the duration it's a smaller cam per cubic inch, and you develop, you won't develop the same problems that you do with a small cubic inch motor like this. Even though the duration in this at 50, I always speak in terms of at 50, advertises things 260, but it's actually, I believe, 218. It's 218, and it's lifting 440. It's a single pattern comp cams. That's small. I mean, that's RV cam style, but much larger than what would have been in it originally. And Jeff, when I spoke to him about this, he believes so as well. I'm only making about 11 inches of vacuum. Now, we might be able to get that a little bit better with some tuning, but not a lot. If I get 13 inches of vacuum out of this, I'd be surprised. In general, the power brakes work fine when you're driving, because when you decel, the vacuum jumps up to 16, 17 inches of vacuum, and you store a little bit in the booster. So when you go to use it, it's available. But when you're like cruising around a parking lot or something and you're constantly opening and closing the throttle blade, your vacuum's pretty low. I have, like I said, I got this in my stash. This is a vacuum storage canister. They're readily available. Like I said, I had it on the truck, and even still, it wasn't enough. But here, I'm relatively certain it's going to help substantially, because what happens is on decel, you get to store up 15, 16, 17 inches of vacuum in here, and then you've got a little bit of accumulation of vacuum there for low speed stuff, and then when you decel again, it'll restore that vacuum. It will improve it. If you're cruising around a parking lot a bunch and you're driving real slow, yeah, you're probably going to run out of vacuum, or you'll only get 11, 12 inches like I do with this cam, and the brakes will just work marginally. It's not bad. You got to lean into them a little bit more. Before, with the old motor, 18, 19 inches of vacuum, this thing had way more brake than I needed. But you got to remember, it's got 4 piston calipers in the front, so it requires quite a bit of force for those. So we'll install this and see if it works and see if it helps. I imagine that it will. The only real place for it to go is behind the shock tower on the passenger side, so we'll probably get it installed down there. It's nothing complicated, very trivial to install one of these. It has a check valve. This is right here. So that way when your engine vacuum peaks, it'll store whatever the peak is. So that way, even when your vacuum goes down, and you're idling at 11 inches again, there still be 17 or however many inches you got on decel. And then, of course, this goes out to the booster. Well, I wasn't expecting this as a problem, but I got around it. and this is metric, so I'm sure it's Chinesium. Pulled both nuts off. This one stripped when it came off. So I just grabbed a 1/4 20 tap, or die, excuse me. Grabbed a 1/4 20 die, and it was about the right size, a little bit tight, but I ran it down and got some 1/4 20 threads on here so I can actually put a nut on it. It's still larger down here, though it still tapers up, so I can still put the bracket on it. It'll still fit tight, and then we'll just throw some washers on it. You know, it kind of sucks, but it'll work. I'm not going to buy a new can just because of that. So we struggled a little bit more than I had hoped on finding a home for this thing. Ultimately, it's ending up down underneath the overflow tank for the coolant. Over there, you have to remember the hinge has to come down into that pocket, so it can't go up high, and down low it would fit, but I'm afraid it's going to interfere with the header when the header is on there, and so I don't want to have to deal with that in the future. So ultimately it ended up down here. We put a couple of riv nuts into the skirt and bolted it right up, and so I think that's probably going to work pretty good for us. Alrighty, got it installed down there. See, it's hiding. Gonna have to probably clean up some of this wiring down here, but we got the can down in there, and there's the overflow line. Not gonna hit anything. It's just chilling out there. And I routed the vacuum line around to the manifold over there. Goes down here. I'm probably gonna put some P-clips on this. This I for sure will. We'll probably put one right here when I get a second to do that, and that'll take care of this. So we'll see. We'll do a little test on it and see if we get better brakes. So I wanted to demonstrate how this works for you. I can't get the camera any closer to the I'm already having problems getting it any closer to the coil because the EMF is screwing with the camera. So hopefully this turns out okay, but if you watch the vacuum gauge, it's at about 10 inches right now. Watch what happens when I rev it and then I close the throttle. See how it moved up there? So now we got more stored vacuum. So it'll do that cyclically. As we're driving, it'll store extra vacuum. So you get a couple of pumps out of the brakes with some higher vacuum. So that's just a quick thing. If you got a little bit larger cam, this is about how this thing's going to idle too. It's got a little burble to it. That's how these logs are. You know, they're just really crappy design. Even with the 2-barrel, it's still not great. And it's just going to idle like that. But in gear, it's under load. It's a little bit better. So that's good. We went ahead and we spruced this up a little bit too. Got ourselves a joke sticker. 200 high performance. It's an oxymoron. But it looks a little bit better. That way it gives it some color. So anyways, that's just a quick thing on adding a vacuum canister for your power brakes.